Hello and welcome to the Skyworld channel, and today I'm going to bring to you guys a very intricate and interesting video over the brand new PlayStation 4 NEO and how it'll compare up to against budget gaming PCs. Thanks to some official release specifications by PlayStation over their brand new PS4 NEO, their 4K VR gaming update to their PlayStation 4, I've actually come up with a very accurate comparison between a budget gaming PC and a PS4 NEO and which device will be able to perform better in games, which will have better 4K gaming capabilities, and which will have better VR gaming capabilities. So let's get into the video. So with the PlayStation 4 just 3 years into release, Sony is already updating their PlayStation 4 with a brand new update called the PS4 NEO, which is supposed to take on VR gaming and 4K gaming for about $500. And these are some pretty big claims if you look at it, because right now at our current lineup of budget gaming PCs that you can build, there aren't really any $500 gaming PCs that can officially run 4K, and there aren't really any $500 gaming PCs that can straight up run VR that well. You can sort of get away with it, but this is a really huge claim coming from the PS4 NEO, so we're gonna go ahead and dive into the topic and scope out what is true and what isn't. But before we begin, let's quickly look at the new specs for the PS4 NEO. So as for the CPU, it is still using the same 8-core Jaguar processor that we saw on the 2013 PlayStation 4. However, it is going to be clocked at a higher clock speed. Now, for the graphics card that is present in this PlayStation 4 NEO, it is going to be a huge grade over the PlayStation 4, as this is going to have a much higher computing core count, and on top of that, it's going to just be in general faster, as it also has a higher clock speed. And then finally, for the RAM, it's going to have 8GB of GDDR5 memory, which is pretty much the same as what we saw on the PlayStation 4. And actually, lastly, the CPU to GPU VRAM utilization is going to be the same, so there isn't going to be any change in terms of how much RAM is going to be used for the operating system, the menu, and the actual game itself. And for the price, it's going to land somewhere around the $450 to $500 range. But now, how will this compare to a $500 budget gaming PC, especially when it comes to its overall performance, 4K gaming capabilities, and VR gaming capabilities? So looking at my last $500 gaming PC that I just did, that gaming PC pretty much has a Core i3-6100 and a RX 470, which we're going to be using to compare against the PS4 NEO. So in terms of the processor that are available in both devices, the $500 gaming PC is rocking an Intel Core i3-6100, a dual-core processor with 4 threads, clocked at 3.7 GHz, and this is based off of the brand new, latest released Skylake architecture. Now on the PlayStation 4 NEO, we're getting an 8-core AMD Jaguar processor, still based off of the same CPU architecture that we saw all the way back in 2013, but it is clocked at a higher clock speed. Now, between the two processors, the win is going to have to go to the gaming PC simply because of the updated architecture. A simple boost in clock speed isn't going to pretty much make or break the PlayStation 4 in terms of its upgraded performance, because it's still using the same CPU architecture that we saw back in 2013. And while as for the gaming PC, we're getting the latest and greatest architecture available from Intel at a very high clock speed of 3.7 GHz. And on top of that, guys, when you look at the actual game development, games are still leaning towards single-threaded performance over multi-threaded performance, which is still why we see dual-core processors outperforming 8-core or even 6-core processors in games. That's simply because game developers are still leaning towards single-threaded performance. There are still some games that break that exception, such as Far Cry, take advantage of multiple cores and multiple threads, but still for most games nowadays, they're still leaning towards single-threaded performance. So the win in terms of the CPU is going to have to go to the $500 gaming PC. Now we'll go ahead and talk about the graphics card, and this is where it gets very interesting. So on our $500 gaming PC, we have an RX 470, which has 32 computing units, that has a clock speed of 1,208 megahertz, and finally it has a memory bandwidth of 224 megabytes per second. And now on the PlayStation 4 NEO, there is a GPU that's somewhere to the equivalent of an RX 470 to an RX 480, as it has 36 computing units, it has a boost clock speed of 911 megahertz, and it has a memory bandwidth of 218 gigabytes per second. Now this is sort of a tough one, because the NEO and the $500 gaming PC both sort of trade out in certain specifications. The $500 gaming PC does excel when it comes to its clock speed and its memory bandwidth, but the PS4 NEO does have a higher computing unit core count. So in terms of the gaming processor performance, they're sort of tied. I'm going to leave this sort of as a tiebreaker because they are very similar, And from looking at the actual prices of both of these devices, I wouldn't be surprised if AMD is putting in their new Polaris technology into the PS4 NEO, as both of these devices are around $400, and the most we could have gone with for a $500 gaming PC was an RX 470, which is a part of their brand new Polaris lineup. And if you're looking at the specs between both graphical processors, they're looking pretty similar, so I have a feeling that for the graphical performance of both of these, they're going to be quite similar. The gaming PC has a total available VRAM usage of 4GB, while on the PS4 NEO, it actually has a higher amount. It has up to 5.5GB of usable VRAM storage, which is going to be a slight win for the PS4 because that means it can handle slightly higher gaming textures, shadows, anti-aliasing, and other things like that. So Scatterable, I want to know, what is the faster gaming device, a $500 gaming PC or a PS4 NEO for about the same price? Well, the indefinite answer, this is very speculative since the actual PS4 NEO hasn't come out yet, but I'm gonna have to give the slight edge to the $500 gaming PC simply because of its processor. The processor that is available on the PS4 NEO is still the same from its 2013 brother, the PlayStation 4, and as we've seen, if you pretty much have the same CPU core architecture and you keep it going for about, a good 5 years to 6 years, and all you do is like improve the clock speed and not really actually update the architecture, there's going to be that much of a processing improvement, and this can be exactly seen in the AMD FX lineup, as at first when they were first released, of course it was an 8-core processor clocked at a semi-high clock speed, but later on AMD pushed that limit to about 5 GHz with their 5990 processor, and it was still based off the same architecture, but it wasn't that much of an improvement in terms of gaming performance. And obviously on the gaming PC, we have the latest and greatest architecture available from Intel on a dual-core 4-thread processor. So in terms of processing performance, just simply on the PS4 NEO, its CPU is going to lag behind against a budget gaming PC, and it will show in games. Now in terms of graphical performance, they're quite similar, but here's the catch. Which device is going to be able to run 4K games and VR games for $500? Technically, theoretically, this is going to have to go to the PS4 NEO simply because of its game optimization that's available on it. Really, we are going to see some PS4 exclusives that are going to be 4K ready, they're going to be VR ready, but that's because they're only going to be exclusives because they can't really develop those games for PC or Xbox One at the same time because they want to put all their optimization efforts towards the PS4 NEO, and since they also want to sell it, they're gonna have to also make sure that that optimization is pretty much exclusive for the PS4 NEO, so buyers can pretty much buy the 4K and VR games that they want only on the PS4 NEO because they're only on the PS4 NEO. If they were on the Xbox One, they probably wouldn't run well on the PS4 NEO, and they probably wouldn't run at 4K or VR. So on a $500 gaming PC, I don't think we're gonna see 4K crazy gaming or VR crazy gaming. You could get away with VR gaming, but maybe not the best. So we will see some 4K VR titles coming out on the PlayStation 4 NEO, but I don't think it'll be that high quality since obviously there is hardware on the PC side that is much more expensive and that is meant to purposely run VR games and 4K games such as the GTX 1080 for a crazy expensive price. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and all that. And this is the Scatterable channel signing out.